What is up, everyone? Welcome back to my channel, and if you are new, welcome. My name is Meg. This is Bachelor Talks, and today we're discussing the episode where they go to Colton's hometown in Denver, Colorado. This week's episode was slightly more entertaining than last week, so thank goodness for that. And basically, we just have all the drama erupting from the previous week where in Vietnam, I should say, where all three girls that went home warned Colton of the same thing of be careful of who you're spending your time with, make sure you're making smart decisions, don't be distracted by shiny things, and no one's really alluding to who specifically this is about. So this has caused quite the drama in the house and speculation, and basically we're gonna get right into all of that. The episode starts off with more vlogging, which typically would annoy me, but I feel like Colton's actually being vulnerable and real, and I feel like that was probably the whole point of production wanting him to vlog, was to get a more real side of him than maybe what he would put on in front of a camera with production standing there interviewing him. So I actually didn't cringe as much when he did it this time. I almost didn't mind it, but Colton's basically just feeling really unsure right now of what's going on, who he should be picking for hometowns, because the timing is awfully convenient for him to be confused, because this is the point in the show where things are really getting serious. Basically with hometowns, whoever you go to meet their parents, it's because you could potentially see yourself being engaged and proposing to them. So we are going back to Denver, back to the United States to wrap up this season, and this is apparently Colton's hometown, so we get to see him in more real life situations. So the first thing he does is that he meets up with Ben, and I thought this whole interaction was really interesting because you could just see the look on Ben's face where he's like, you know, I really feel genuinely about these girls, but then I have other girls telling me that they're being fake and like they're not here for the right reasons, and he's just kind of like, I also think it's interesting because here, for the first time, basically, we're really hearing how Colton feels, and he says that he's falling in love with multiple people, and in my mind, when he said that, I was thinking of Hannah, the content creator, and Cassie, when he said he was starting to fall in love with people. I see like they're the two front runners at this point in the show. Then it flashes back to the house, and all the girls are basically in denial. We can see them in their interviews, and some of them are defensive. Some of them are just like, I don't know what's going on with these rumors. I'm here for the right reasons. I would never hurt Colton. So it's kind of like, are we gonna get to the bottom of this? And I don't think we're ever gonna get to the bottom of this until the reunion, Women Tells All. The first one-on-one is with Tayshia, and I'm just kind of wondering because she's like, I have no problem telling him who it is and what I think and how I feel. So I'm wondering at this point, is she going to put her foot in the mouth and not end up getting a rose because of it, or will the confrontation with Colton end up going in her favor? I actually really enjoyed this date because for the first time we're seeing what a realistic date is, because let's face it, The Bachelor and Bachelorette is very unrealistic. You don't get a feel for how things are out in the real world where it actually matters. So watching this hometown date with her and Colton's hometown, it was like super refreshing to see them get to spend the day together, what they might do on a typical day off. And they cooked together, they got to spend time together. I really enjoyed their date, and I feel like they're developing a really strong connection. At first I wasn't really sure how he felt about Tayshia because we didn't get to see that much, but I feel like his feelings for her are really starting to develop. Also on this date, we basically find out from Tayshia that it is Kaitlyn and Cassie that said that they are already making plans for all these parties they're going to when they go home, all these people that they want to meet, all these things they want to do with their new platform, and talking about how amazing it would be to be the next Bachelorette. And she tells us to Colton. Colton's definitely taken aback because I feel like he truly feels the strongest for Cassie. And I feel like after everything that Kaitlyn and Hannah went through, I feel like he really was on Kaitlyn's side and like really thought she was a genuine person. So he is pretty shocked by this news. So that leaves him with a lot to think about. But in the end, Tayshia does get the rose and she is moving on to hometowns. Also, side note, apparently all this talk is coming directly from Katie. So I think that that's important to remember, because every single person that has gone home has said similar things, but they're not saying Demi said this. They're saying Katie said it. So now the next one-on-one was with Kaitlyn, which I thought was an interesting choice. After hearing the rumors, I definitely would have thought that she was going to be on the group date and not a one-on-one. So I was kind of wondering if she was just not going to get a rose, but they start the day off with snowboarding. And then Colton confronts her about what he heard, and she is very appalled. Very much, I don't get why they're talking about us. I don't get why girls are tearing girls down. So at this point, it's so confusing to know who to believe, and there's a lot of she said going on in the house. So what is your take on Kaitlyn? Do you think that she's genuine, or do you think that the rumors about her are true? I don't know. I could say it either way. Like, I could see her wanting to be the next Bachelorette, but either she's really good at playing nice or she's actually genuine. I'm still like unsure, like the jury's still out on that for me. Also, when Colton's confronting her and she gets like defensive and she just, you know, she basically pleads her case and starts declaring her love for him. So for me, that kind of got a little bit desperate, but at the same time, like, what is she supposed to do? Like, is she supposed to sit there and like own up to it and be like, yeah, I am. I'm, you know, going to use this platform to, you know, for personal growth. I'm going to go to all these parties. I want to be the next Bachelorette. Like, is she honestly, who would admit to that? So I'm really torn about it, but she did plead her case well enough, and I think declaring her love, I'm falling in love with you, definitely helped sway Colton to give her a rose. So Kaitlyn is also going to be for hometowns. Now, when we get back to the house, there is a Kaitlyn and Tayshia showdown, and I'm starting to question, did Tayshia lie? Because when Tayshia was talking to Colton, she said, Kaitlyn said this, Cassie said this was said, that was said. But then when they have their confrontation, Tayshia says, well, I told him my opinion and like what I feel. But it's like, you didn't state an opinion, you said, she said this, she said that. And to me, that's not an opinion, that's a statement and something like a rumor or like talk that you actually heard, like it's fact. But when she was confronted with Kaitlyn, she made it seem like, oh yeah, I just told him my opinion of you. So now I'm just like, I don't know what to think, I don't know what to feel. So what was your thoughts when you saw the interaction with Kaitlyn and Tayshia? Where do you think this is? Obviously, there's two sides to every story, so there's something in the middle. But I just found it really interesting that Tayshia, because for me, the way she was talking to Kaitlyn, it came across that everything she told Colton, she just kind of pulled out of her butt. Or maybe it was things that she heard, but she did not have that come across to Kaitlyn. So like, I don't know what to believe with her. And if she did make that stuff up just to give Kaitlyn and Cassie a bad name, I'm kind of surprised, but I also don't, like, I don't know. The next one-on-one is with beauty pageant Hannah. And to be honest, I wasn't super thrilled because I feel like half the time on The Bachelor, like off camera, like in interviews, Hannah's been playing like a character, so to say, to like keep things entertaining, which is like, you know, good on you. But I feel like we haven't really seen the real her, which I guess makes sense because earlier on her first one-on-one, she said that she has a really hard time opening up. So maybe like her goofiness was just her way of coping and being in this process. And now that things are getting serious, she's finally opening up. And this one threw me through a loop because she got to go home and meet Colton's parents. So I was kind of shook by this and was like, okay, he must have really serious feelings for Hannah, because why else would he bring a girl to meet his family if he wasn't serious about her? But he's not sure. So I don't understand that decision. For me, I would definitely bring somebody that I knew that I had feelings for, that I knew I wanted to see towards the end. That's who I would bring home to meet my parents, not someone that I was confused about. And I felt like the whole thing was awkward. I felt like Colton just wanted to go home and talk to his parents, and like there's like no interaction with Hannah there. And she really didn't seem to be a topic of discussion with his parents, so it was just a whole awkward situation. Colton didn't feel comfortable enough to dump her there and then. So he decides to wait for dinner, and then basically at dinner, he just says, I know that you're in love with me, or that you're falling in love with me, but I don't have those same feelings, so you need to go now. And I felt so bad for her. I never thought that I would feel so bad for Hannah, but my heart kind of broke for her, and I just felt so terrible. It was just so awkward, and that's just like the worst part of being on The Bachelor, is getting that far where you're serious and getting broken up with. But I thought that she handles herself really well, and I felt like she handles herself with grace. And after the way that that date went and the way that she left the show, I could see her being in the run for Bachelorette, just because I felt like we got to see like the actual real side of her, and I could see her working in that format. And if she isn't the next Bachelorette, I hope she's in Paradise, because I want to see more of her, and I never thought throughout the season that I would ever be saying that. So what is your thoughts on that? Do you think he made a good decision by sending Hannah home? Do you want to see her later on in the franchise? Let me know in the comments down below. Before I forget, Hannah also, which I don't understand why this was not mentioned throughout the rest of the episode, but Hannah also said, be careful, there are girls here that are not ready for this. So that is the fourth girl now in like the past week or so that has told him there are still girls here that aren't ready and they're not taking it seriously. So I just thought it was interesting because when Colton talks about this later on in the episode, he doesn't bring up Hannah's comment. He brings up all the comments from Vietnam, but Hannah literally said the same thing to him. So thoughts on that? Let me know. Lastly, we have the group date, most awkward group date ever, with Cassie, Heather, Hannah, and Kirpa. So they go hop on a train and they're just like out in the woods hanging out. So Heather goes and talks with Colton first, and Heather starts to crumble a little bit under pressure. And to be honest, I'm surprised that Heather was still here. Like, I felt like she should have left last week, because I didn't see like any connection between her and Colton. And I felt like production wanted to keep her on for a while just because of her storyline of never been kissed. I expected her to last another week after they kissed, but she stayed for such a long time. But she basically sits down with Colton and breaks it off with him and says, I know how serious hometowns are. I'm not there yet. I don't want to take away somebody else's opportunity, so I'm going to go home, which was really mature of her, so props to Heather. What did you think about that? I can definitely see Heather in Bachelor in Paradise. I think like she would be fun to have on the show. But who knows though, because she says that she wants to be serious with someone. So I don't know if she would go on VIP or not. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think we will be seeing her this summer? Now we have Kirpa that went off with Colton, and she sits down. They're kind of talking about things. Colton kind of brings up the warnings he's been getting, and Kirpa basically mentions Cassie and Kaitlyn and says that they have ill intentions, that they're not pure, that they're basically using this show to social climb. And Colton, again, is just really confused and kind of questioning the rose that he gave to Kaitlyn. And he's just so confused about Cassie, because he says he feels really strongly in his gut and with his intuition that Kaitlyn and Cassie are both here for the right reasons, and that he has really strong feelings for them. I like Kirpa a lot, so I really hope to see her in the future of the franchise. But there was not a big connection with Colton, so I'm kind of surprised he didn't send her home. But he's also so tripped up in his head with Cassie, and like, should I just send Cassie home because everybody's telling me that she's not here for the right reasons, and keep Kirpa, when to me it was obvious he didn't really have feelings for her. So he's just kind of in his head right now with this back and forth on who to keep and who to let go. Then we see a confrontation between Cassie and Kirpa, and I just think it's really interesting because Hannah's also on this date, and Hannah and Kirpa were talking, and like they were in agreement, and Hannah's like, yeah, like you should know, but Hannah doesn't say anything to him. I mean, maybe she does and it's just not on camera, but I find it interesting that she's like in agreement on it, but then she doesn't involve herself in it, which is kind of smart. But at the same time, it's like, if literally everybody else is talking to him about this, why are you the one person out of everyone that is being quiet? So I found that a little suspect. So there's a confrontation between Kirpa and Cassie, and again, Hannah's really silent in this and just kind of like watching it happen, or maybe she walked off with Colton, I can't exactly remember. But Cassie just got really defensive and kind of shut down, and Kirpa said that that means that she is guilty. It could mean that, or it could mean that she's just so frustrated, because like I know for myself personally, when I get really upset and angry, I like shut down and cry. So what are your feelings on all of this? I really want to know in the comments where you guys are at. Like if you guys are like, I don't want to seem like team like Kirpa or like team Cassie and Kaitlyn, but I want to know where you fall on this divide, because it's just, I don't know. It's literally the only thing that there is to talk about. So Cassie, of course, goes off with Colton, and she's doing the same thing Kaitlyn did, and she's pleading her case and declaring her love for Colton. So do you think that Cassie was being genuine in her conversation with Colton, or do you think she's just covering her own butt? With everything that happened with Tayshia and Kirpa, and then Cassie and Kaitlyn, I feel that Kirpa did a better job of explaining the situation to Colton than Tayshia did, especially if Tayshia's just like pulling stuff out of the air and just said whatever she wanted. So I feel like she did a better job in the situation of handling it, but for some reason, I think because Colton doesn't have that strong of feelings for Kirpa, he was just kind of like whatever about it. Moving on, Colton says that he cannot decide who he wants to give the roses to at this point, so he wants to continue to dinner. And again, it's like this Hannah thing all over again, where he said he wasn't sure, but as soon as we got to dinner, he had a decision in his mind. So when they get to dinner, he pulls the other Hannah aside, calls her outside, and first I was like, why are they being shady, not showing us their conversation? But he comes inside, snatches up a rose, gives it to Hannah. So Hannah is the third one to be confirmed for hometowns. So now this turned into a very awkward 2-on-1. So there's a little bit of awkwardness between Cassie and Kirpa. And I guess I have to give Cassie props in this position, because I feel like she could have been like really rude or really petty towards Kirpa, but she was just kind of like, what the heck is going on? And like they seem like they have a little bit of a normal vibe, which I guess is kind of like what you're stuck with doing in that house. And then Hannah goes back to the house and basically explains what's going on. Kaitlyn says she doesn't feel right with Cassie possibly going home due to there being lies about her. So Kaitlyn decides to crash in on their date, have a little chat with Colton, and said, everybody's making up these rumors about me. They're also doing it with Cassie. Cassie's being genuine. Don't let all these rumors sway your decision. Then Colton says that he has an aha moment. He has a realization that the show isn't about she said, it's about his gut, his intuition, what he wants to do. So he decides to go with his gut, and that means sending Kirpa home and giving the last and final rose to Cassie. So for hometowns, we have Tayshia, we have Kaitlyn, we have Hannah, and we have Cassie. So not quite who I thought would be in the top 4 at the end of this. Let me know in the comments below, is this who your top 4 was? Are you surprised by anybody that's in the top 4 at this point? And hopefully with Kirpa, we see her in paradise. I think that I can see her in that environment. So let me know with the eliminated girls who you can see in VIP this summer. But that is going to wrap it up for this week's video. I don't have any spoiler alerts, but I do have a little bit of tea. I don't really follow many people from the Bachelor franchise in general on Instagram or Twitter, and I don't follow anybody from this season on any of my social media, but when I was on my Explorer page of Instagram last night, I saw a picture of Cassie, so I clicked on it, and it happened to be her Instagram, and she posted some pictures of her just making like resting bitch faces. And she just said, when you know what really went down and really happened, but you're under contract, so you can't talk about anything or defend yourself. So that also, you know, made me wonder a little bit. So do you think that Kirpa and Tayshia were being disingenuous? Or do you think Kahlan and Cassie are not being genuine? I would really love to hear your thoughts. That is gonna wrap it up for this week's episode of Bachelor Talks. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on next week's. Check out my other videos right here, and feel free to check out my other channel, Crystal Corner. I will be uploading on that one soon. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you next time. Bye, everyone.